So the burning platform deck, which was sort of never to be seen until we were pretty sure on what the answer was. Was the catalyst point, and what that did was that enabled us to really invoke the full support of the organisation. So the thing that our CEO did was make it the number one priority for 2014, which opened some really important doors. And so there is something in that which is, we had tried before, but we didn't get the proof points, the reasons to believe, the ammunition.
Yeah.
And it all basically withered on the vine. And so, most obvious lesson in the world, you need the CEO to bang the drum to get the organisation to fall into line at some points in time.
Yeah.
To get the process started. So, but anyway, then we had lots of quant segmentation, we did lots of qual work. I mean, it was a fairly traditional insight discovery process going right back to the beginning. But I think the thing that we were registering or found, rediscovered, was the insight that was hiding in plain sight. And I've talked about that a bit. I mean, it's so bloody obvious that insurance is there to fix stuff, but nobody talked about it for 20, 30 years.
Yeah.
And so this is the point behind that is you need a lot of curiosity to find the obvious. Seems bizarre, doesn't it? But now it's so obvious. But it wasn't because the fixation on price was really distracting everybody. And so to get to, it's like Winston Churchill. I'd have written you a shorter letter if I'd had more time. It took a long time to get to that one-word brief.
Yeah. On
the basis of lots of good research work, some big brains, some great work from the agency. To get to the blindingly obvious. And then that was the springboard point, really, was that brief formed the heart of a creative pitch, which was very nearly a disaster, because 3 out of 4 agencies didn't really come up with much at all. And then Saatchi's, there was a couple of key moments, which I can talk to, where, they came up with something which was brilliant. And, I'm very, very thankful for that. And there's probably 2 moments to talk of in terms of, so what might be interesting about why this came to be.
Yeah.
The first was, Saatchi's was the last of 4 agencies. The first 3 had read our brief, which said, really, we want to smash this. We want to, disrupt. We want to change the organisation, change the sector. And they played back something pretty benign. Basically, probably something safe to hear.
Yeah.
And I suppose just we hadn't been convincing enough in our brief, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah.
But anyway, that was a bit disappointing. So Saatchi's was a bit last chance saloon, and myself and others were sweating. The meeting started like all the others, pretty safe view. And my only intervention in the whole thing was to stop that meeting or pause it and say, look, hang on, hang on. You're just telling us what you think you want us to hear, assuming that we don't really mean what we mean in the brief. Let me tell you we do. Now, please tell us what you really think. And pretty much those were the words.
Yeah.
And it was a bit of, it was a bit jolting. I didn't do it in a sort of an arrogant or outlandish way. Just, really, please tell us what you really think. And that changed the dynamic quite a lot. And Richard Huntington went on a bit of a rant about one of his own personal experiences in Vietnam. And it was just the chemistry. It was a chemistry meeting. The chemistry started to flow. And I think that was an important moment in terms of we're looking for a strategic partner as an agency, and we really, really do need to disrupt. We mean it. We want it. Let's go on this journey together. Starting a great relationship, which is still there today. And then the second moment was on the back of that. Paul Sylvan, now sadly passed away.
Yeah.
Just had this moment in the lift, which you've probably heard of, where he said, "I think I know what it's like to be in insurance. You've got to be a really great account director. You've just got to make shit happen." An advertising agency, account director. You've got to make shit happen. It's a bit like Harvey Keitel as Winston Wolfe in Pulp Fiction, blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
And, I think he was sort of actually cut down in flames in the moment. Or somebody politely said, yes, Paul, we'll come back to that later.
Yeah.
It's a bit early for creative ideas or something like that.
And he might not be our sort of role model.
Yeah. No, well, I mean, actually, that was many sort of why it might never have happened. So that was one.
Yeah.
Interesting to have a gangster as a metaphor if you're intent when you're in the lowest trusted sector in the world. There was also, I've talked quite a bit about our CEO really, really didn't like it. Really, really, really didn't like it. So that was another intervention moment that I suppose where I become the path clearer and keep the flow. But in the end, you could say it was just an agency pitch on the basis of a fairly simple thought. But as you're saying, there was a lot more sort of flavour to it.
And it's really interesting to me as someone who, I'm a full-time writer now, but I spent 25 years directing ads, and the best campaigns that I was a part of. There's some campaigns that I was there to shoot the pictures, but as I got more experience and kind of happened, not by, I just happened to have been associated with some successful campaigns because I happened to shoot them. You got pulled in a bit earlier. And the really exciting stuff were those moments when things weren't quite adding up, and we were in the room with the agency and the client, and we said, what do you really want here? We're getting stuck on the detail, but what do you want? And I had a couple moments, especially on a massive Carlsberg job I did, where the client turned around and spoke very, very passionately about what mattered, and everything then flowed from there. It didn't matter if some ideas were bum ideas or it didn't hit spot. You knew what mattered, and what it was about.
Yeah. Well,
sorry.
It's funny you should say that, because they asked a brilliant question, which was what sort of advertising do you want? And if you think about it, it's a bit of a sort of a clumsy question, isn't it? What sort of advertising do you want? And you don't often find it in a brief. And I've talked about this a couple of times. I thought it was a great question, because it actually drove out a conversation that we hadn't had internally about our ambition. And I don't mean ambition in terms of, we've got these business objectives and blah, blah, blah. It was more, we said, well, we want it to be epic. We want it to leap out from the break. We don't want it to feel like advertising. We want it to be more rewarding than that. We don't mind if it's a bit, edgy or sinister. All the things it's really hard to write down as sort of, what I'd love to see in an advert, because you can't write these things down in many ways.
Yeah.
So we got quite lucky that there was sort of good questions, good interventions, good insight, good brains along the journey to get us there. And I think you need good planning and good luck to get from A to B.
And 4 meetings, and 4 agencies before you begin having the right conversation. It's not a given that anyone can come up with this stuff.
It's not. I think which is why I think I feel particularly blessed to have that hair on the back of your neck moment.
Yeah.
Once is probably a gift. Twice is exceptionally unusual. Yeah. But what is interesting is that, as we decided we wanted to move on from Harvey Keitel and Winston Wolfe in search of even better, that we chose to do that with Saatchi. So there's no change in client, no change in agency, not really a great change in brief, and not wearing out and not commercially running ahead of, getting out of hand, or Harvey getting a bit older might be one thing, but that wasn't really the thing. Just the fact that we could go again.
Yeah.
Well, we didn't necessarily have to. And the Transformers stuff, and the Bumblebee and the Robocop and Donatello.
Yeah.
It was really similarly again. Some great people asking the right questions at the right time with a bit of luck, and obviously Saatchi's do have that spirit of anything is possible.
Yeah. Mark, can I take you back a bit to by the time you are in, that you're reaching those two key moments, the decision for you guys that you want to be fixers has been made. I really want to know about, from the burning deck to fixers. I know you're saying, it's the insight in plain sight, but how did you arrive at that? Were you thinking we've got to rescue this business and we don't want it to be by going on to price comparison and joining that? Or how did you get to the idea of fixers in terms of internally in the company and your perception of customers?
Yeah, so the need was that the brand was declining in terms of customer numbers, and